Tomorrow I'm moving into your vacation house. I've already had the wallpaper replaced, so send me $3,000 for the cost, okay? My sister Abigail's voice echoed through the smartphone speaker, light and casual, as if she were simply making plans for lunch. I froze in the middle of pouring fresh coffee into my mug in my California kitchen, trying to process the meaning of her words. What did you just say? When I finally managed to speak, my voice was so faint and trembling that even I was surprised by it. Abigail repeated herself in an exaggeratedly cheerful tone as though she were enjoying my confusion. I said I'm moving into the Lake Arrowhead house tomorrow, with Ethan and the kids. The rent at our current place is too expensive, you know? Your house is just sitting there empty, so it's perfect, right? Oh, and the wallpaper in the living room was a little outdated, so I had it redone with my own sense of style. It looks amazing now. I paid the contractor $3,000, so could you please transfer that to me? My mind completely shut down. My vacation house. The Lake Arrowhead property is a precious place I bought with my own savings after years of hard work, finally creating a sanctuary just for myself. And she's moving in there? Not only did she inform me after the fact, but she presented it as a done deal, complete with a financial demand. It was beyond comprehension. Wait, Abigail, what are you talking about? You're moving into my house? Who gave you permission to do that? And how did you even get inside to replace the wallpaper? Sensing the rising anger in my voice, Abigail's tone turned slightly annoyed. Oh, come on, you're always so uptight. I borrowed the spare key from Mom. And permission? We're family. Do we really need to go through formalities? Dad and Mom both said it was a great idea. Families are supposed to help each other when they're in need, right? It felt like being struck over the head with a blunt object. My father and mother knew about this insane plan and approved of it. With trembling fingers, I put the call on hold and immediately dialed my mother's number. After several rings, she finally answered in her usual relaxed tone. Hello, Sophie. What's the matter calling at this hour? Mom, I just got a call from Abigail. She said she's moving into my Lake Arrowhead house tomorrow. Is that true? Did you know about this? In stark contrast to my panicked voice, my mother's reply was shockingly calm. Oh, so Abigail told you. Yes, that's right. Things have been a bit tough for them financially. And since you hardly use that house, it worked out perfectly. Your family, dear. It's only natural. Natural? I was speechless. My property, my privacy, my wishes. All of them were trampled so easily under the single word family. I recognized that feeling. When Abigail quietly took one of my designer bags and returned it stained after a party. When Abigail asked to borrow my new car for the weekend, only to drive it around for months and give it back full of scratches. My parents would always say the same thing. She didn't mean any harm, so forgive her. Abigail always managed to get whatever she wanted. No one in the family ever bothered to notice how much I had endured or how many sacrifices I had made behind the scenes. She was good at relying on others, and I was expected to be the one who indulged her. But this time it was on a different level. It was true that I had given Mom a spare key for emergencies, but I never imagined she would come up with a plan to live in my vacation house. I returned to the call I had put on hold with Abigail. Abigail, I don't know what you and Dad and Mom are thinking, but I will never accept this. I will not allow you to enter my house without my permission, and I certainly will not allow you to live there. I said it clearly and firmly. Abigail snorted. All right. Here comes Sophie's hysterics again. It's too late. Most of the packing is already done. Besides, I told you, the wallpaper is already replaced. I don't need your approval at this point, so transfer the money, okay? She hung up on me unilaterally. I stood there, phone clenched in my hand, frozen. Anger, despair, and a deep sadness I had long suppressed surged up all at once. They had used the spare key to let contractors into my house without my permission and had meddled with the interior. That was no longer mere selfishness or pampering. It was clear trespass and vandalism. And quietly, something definite began to grow inside me. It was a cold flame of resolve that had moved beyond anger. I was done being at their mercy. I went straight to the closet and began stuffing clothes into a weekend bag. I grabbed my car keys and my wallet and opened the front door. There was only one place I could go. Lake Arrowhead, where my vacation house stands. I was going there to see the truth with my own eyes and to reclaim my sanctuary. Even by highway, it takes over 2 hours to drive from my home to Lake Arrowhead. During the entire trip, anger and anxiety swirled inside my head. By the time I finally turned onto the familiar road along the lake at dusk and saw my cabin appear between the trees, I gasped. The porch light was shining brightly and unfamiliar checkered curtains hung in the windows. That alone was enough to tell me that Abigail's words hadn't been bluffs or jokes. I unlocked the door with my own key and stepped inside, and immediately lost my words. The living room walls, once painted in the calm earth tones I had chosen, had been replaced with a gaudy gold damask wallpaper. In the kitchen, a mismatched spice rack had been screwed into the wall, leaving rough drill holes around it. This was no longer my home. It felt as if I had wandered into a stranger's house. An overwhelming sense of wrongness and nausea rose within me. Then, with growing dread, I headed toward the place I feared most. At the end of the hallway on the second floor was my study. It was my personal space, where I worked, read, and faced myself in silence. Trying to shake off the bad feeling, I opened the door. At that moment, I felt the blood drain from my body. The walls were painted in a blinding shade of shocking pink. I was so furious that I could hardly stand, and I leaned against the wall to keep myself steady. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something in the upper corner of the room near the ceiling. A small white dome-shaped device. A security camera. Just 3 months ago, I had hired a professional company to install them before leaving the house for an extended period to strengthen security. There were 4 cameras in total inside the house, and all the footage and audio were automatically saved to cloud storage. A jolt ran through my body like electricity, clearing my thoughts that had been clouded by anger. Yes, evidence. Everything must have been recorded. I immediately pulled out my smartphone and opened the security system app. With trembling fingers, I logged in and began reviewing the recorded footage from the front door, the living room, the kitchen, and this very study. The date was 1 week ago. There, an unbelievable scene had been recorded in vivid video and audio. Abigail opened the front door confidently with the spare key she had borrowed from Mom and walked into the house as if it belonged to her. A few hours later, she let several contractors in and instructed them on what to do. Change the wallpaper here. Take that shelf down. We don't need it. I could hear her laughing loudly on the phone with Mom. Sophie will be so shocked, right? But once we move in, it'll be ours. Surprise. Mission accomplished. Ethan asked nervously, "Are you sure this is really okay?" She brushed him off, saying, "Dad and Mom are on our side, so there's nothing to worry about." Everything was there on the footage. Their conversations, their actions, every bit of it saturated with malice and selfishness. This was not a simple family quarrel. It was a premeditated and malicious criminal act. Sadness and despair drained from me, replaced by a cold feeling. But there was no time to indulge in sentimentality. Abigail had said she would move in the following day. That meant there was a very high chance they would arrive with their belongings the next day. It would be unwise to confront them here and risk an emotional altercation. This was not the battlefield I needed. I began to act immediately. First, I took dozens of photographs of every altered corner of the house with my smartphone camera. Next, I backed up the security footage from the cloud to multiple online storage locations and to my laptop. I did the same for the recorded phone call from Abigail. With that, I had secured the physical evidence. I packed a minimum of belongings, quietly locked the vacation house door, and left the property. I decided to drive back to my home in Los Angeles. The next morning, I stood in front of the law office of Mr. Walker, which has an office in downtown Los Angeles. I had called last night to make an appointment, and he had kindly given me the first slot in the morning. In his office, with its heavy mahogany desk, I opened the laptop I had brought. "Mr. Walker, thank you for your time. First, please take a look at this." I first displayed the photo of my study, painted over in pink. Next, I showed him photos one after another of the kitchen wall full of drill holes and the living room replaced with tasteless wallpaper. He watched the screen quietly and intently without interrupting once. And this is the decisive evidence. I turned my laptop so he could see and played the security camera footage streamed from the cloud. There, Abigail was shown clearly on video, giving instructions to the contractors with clear audio. "Paint all of these walls this pink, please. My daughter loves this color." Yes, it's a surprise for my sister, so just issue all the invoices in her name. It's amazing. It already feels almost like our house. I then played back the recording of Mom laughing on the phone with her. After we finished reviewing all the visual evidence, I presented my final trump card. And this is the clincher, the recording of the very first call in which Abigail demanded, "Pay me $3,000 for the wallpaper." Fortunately, because I work as a project manager, I have long set my phone to automatically record all calls to prevent he said, she said disputes with clients and contractors. This habit turned out to be unexpectedly useful this time. After reviewing all the evidence, Mr. Walker took a deep breath, steepled his fingers, and looked at me directly. "Miss Carter, this is by no means a mere family dispute. From a legal standpoint, your sister's actions and those of your parents who aided the plan constitute several serious crimes." He picked up a pen and began to write on a legal pad as he carefully explained each point. First, unlawful entry, using a spare key and entering your private property, the vacation house, without your permission. Second, vandalism, willfully damaging and altering your property, walls, furniture, interior, without your consent, which is malicious vandalism. And third, attempted extortion. Demanding that you pay for the renovation costs is an attempt to obtain money through coercion, which is an extremely serious offense. The weight of the word crime from his mouth only strengthened my resolve. Mr. Walker presented me with two options. One was to file a civil suit seeking restoration of the house to its original condition and damages for emotional distress. The other was to pursue that, and in addition, to move forward with criminal charges. If you pursue criminal charges, the police will intervene and the prosecutor will decide whether to indict. If convicted, your sister would receive a criminal record. It will not be a quiet resolution, but it is the most certain way to pursue justice and ensure this never happens again. I did not hesitate for a moment. I want both. I want to pursue civil and criminal action to make them fully compensate for all the damage they caused. I am done being their victim. Mr. Walker nodded quietly at my immediate answer. "Sure, I respect your decision. I will prepare a formal demand letter and send it to your sister right away. At the same time, we will begin preparing the criminal complaint to submit to the local police station." His words made the path I needed to take clear. Mr. Walker gave me the law as an absolute shield and spear against the vague family demands I had been forced to swallow until now. "Miss Carter, the fight ahead may be psychologically painful. Your family will appeal to your emotions and try to control you with guilt. But you have done nothing wrong. You are simply exercising your rightful legal rights to protect your property and your dignity. We will support you under the law with everything we have." Mr. Walker's powerful words felt as if the dark cloud that had hung over my heart was finally clearing. 3 days passed after that. During that time, I cut off all contact with my family and waited in the calm before the storm for the moment to come. In the afternoon, my phone rang. The display showed it was my mother calling. I took a deep breath and pressed the call button calmly. "Sophie, what on earth do you think you're doing?" On the other end, my mother's voice trembled with anger and confusion. "What do you mean, Mom?" I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. "What do you mean? A letter from the lawyer arrived at Abigail's place? Unlawful entry? Vandalism? Are you trying to make your own sister a criminal?" The fury in her voice was fiercer than anything I had ever heard. "Mom, listen. What Abigail did is not acceptable. She entered my house without permission and destroyed my property. That is a fact." "Don't come up with excuses. Helping a sister who's in trouble is only natural. Anyway, we're coming to Lake Arrowhead tomorrow. You should come too, if the family talks it out." "No." I cut her off quietly but firmly. "There's no room for discussion, but I will go to Lake Arrowhead tomorrow. I will give her my final notice." "What did you just say?" Ignoring my mother's stunned silence, I continued. "This is her last chance. If Abigail and the others have packed up all their things and left the house before I arrive tomorrow, I might reconsider pursuing criminal charges. But if they remain there, they will face consequences they cannot undo." With that, I ended the call without waiting for my mother's reply. The next day, I arrived at Lake Arrowhead exactly at the appointed time. The lake was as calm and beautiful as ever, but just as I had expected, an unfamiliar minivan was parked in front of my vacation house. They had completely ignored my warning. When I opened the front door, I found my parents, Abigail and Ethan, sitting on the living room sofa. As soon as I entered, all 4 pairs of eyes turned toward me sharply. "Sophie, you're finally here. Sit down. Withdraw that ridiculous lawsuit immediately, my father said in a grave tone. That's right, you've gone too far. We've already moved our things in, Abigail said shamelessly. In the corner of the room, several cardboard boxes were stacked, clearly their belongings. I stood before them and said firmly, I'm not withdrawing the lawsuit. If you don't leave this house right now, I won't hesitate. Are you still saying that? My mother screamed. Enough already. Yes, it's true you bought this house, but we're family. This house belongs to all of us. This house belongs to me. I cut her off. Then I took a document from my briefcase and slid it across the table. It was my property deed. This property is registered as 100% my personal asset, Sophie Carter. You have no right to claim even an inch of it. But Abigail scoffed. So what? What does that piece of paper even mean? We're living here now. We've already redone the wallpaper the way I like it. At that moment, I felt something quietly click into place inside me. The trap had worked perfectly. Those were the words I had been waiting for. I smiled calmly. So, the way you like it, huh? Do you really like that gold wallpaper? At my unexpected question, Abigail hesitated for a moment, then straightened her posture proudly. Of course I do. It's so much nicer than your boring taste. I see. Then you'd better take a good look at it while you still can. I took a step forward and placed my hand on the table. Because that wallpaper you did your way, the study you painted pink, and every bit of junk you've added to this house, all of it will soon disappear without a trace. They all looked at me blankly, unable to grasp the meaning of my words. I pulled another thick file from my briefcase and placed it on the table. This is the contract I signed 3 months ago for a full renovation of this house. And this is the officially approved building permit issued by the city. I could see my father's expression freeze as he opened the file with a puzzled look. The construction starts tomorrow morning at 9. The duration is 9 months. The plan is to tear the house down completely and rebuild it from the foundation and frame. In other words, I looked straight into Abigail's eyes and declared, that tasteless wallpaper you put up and the pink paint in my study, by tomorrow they'll all be nothing but rubble. Your effort and the money you should have paid the contractors will all be for nothing. What are you? The color drained from Abigail's face. My mother covered her mouth in disbelief, while my father stared at the contract in stunned silence. Abigail managed to squeeze out a few broken words. That's a lie. It's not a lie. Look at the date on the contract. Check the issue date on the permit. I made this plan long before you forced your way into this house. Everything I've done is legal and fully within my rights. As I said that, the room fell completely silent. The cheerful voices of Abigail's children echoed faintly from the next room. It was my father who finally broke the heavy silence. Why? Why would you tear down such a perfect house? At that, I decided it was time to reveal the cold, undeniable truth I had been holding back. A perfect house? Dad, you're looking at this place through sentimental eyes. I'm not. I see it as a project manager, as an asset. My tone was calm but resolute. This property has potential, but with its outdated interior and inefficient layout, its market value has plateaued. That's why 3 months ago, I initiated a project to maximize its value. I looked him straight in the eye. This isn't an impulsive act. It's a calculated, strategic investment. According to my estimates, after 9 months of renovation, this property's value will increase by at least 40%. This is not about nostalgia. It's a business project, one crucial to my future. Then I turned toward Abigail, not bothering to hide my disdain. What you and your family tried to trample on with your dirty shoes for the sake of a $3,000 wallpaper job wasn't an empty vacation house. It was a 6-figure investment project. My words echoed through the room, leaving no space for anyone to breathe. Their naive belief that emotion could win this argument was shattered completely. The first to regain his senses was Ethan, my brother-in-law. Until now, he had been sitting silently, detached, but he finally seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. His face went pale as he turned toward Abigail, trembling. Abigail, what is this? His voice carried more fear than anger. What? Are you blaming me for this? Abigail screamed hysterically. Of course I am. You told me Sophie and your parents were fine with it, that it was all settled. But now she's serious about suing us, and everything we've done is worthless. You've ruined us. My fault? If you made more money, none of this would have happened. This is all on you. Your selfish scheme is going to leave our children homeless. Their ugly shouting match filled the room. My father yelled, "Enough! Both of you stop this at once." But it was too late. No one could stop them anymore. And then, at that very moment, a knocking sound came from the front door. Everyone's eyes turned toward it. When I opened the door, 2 uniformed police officers were standing there. "Good afternoon. Is this the residence of Miss Sophie Carter?" one of them asked, scanning the room sharply. "Yes, I'm Sophie," I answered calmly. "We're here based on the criminal complaint filed by Miss Sophie Carter," the officer continued. "We need to speak with Miss Abigail Collins regarding allegations of unlawful entry and property damage. Would you come with us to the station, please?" "Police! Why?" my mother screamed, while my father staggered as he tried to stand. Abigail collapsed to the floor, repeating, No, this can't be." The officers ignored the shocked family and continued in a calm, professional tone. "This property is currently under legal investigation. Everyone except Miss Sophie Carter must vacate the premises immediately. Any belongings brought into the house cannot be removed without permission. They will be secured as evidence." Those words meant that the boxes they had carried in were no longer theirs. No, my things. This was supposed to be our home." Abigail screamed hysterically, rushing toward the boxes, but one of the officers quietly stopped her. I watched my collapsing family with cold, detached eyes. Just as they had destroyed my sanctuary, their own lives were now crumbling from the foundation. And the ones who had pulled the trigger were none other than themselves. Several months later, Abigail stood in court, tears streaming down her face, playing the tragic heroine as she repeated the same lie, claiming she had been betrayed by her sister. My parents, too, sat in the gallery, nodding along to Abigail's pitiful performance, defending her until the very end. But the charade ended the moment Mr. Walker displayed the security footage on the courtroom's large monitor. There she was, Abigail herself, giving orders to the contractors, laughing with our mother over the phone, and bragging, "Once we move in, it's ours." Her own words and actions echoed through the courtroom, shattering her lies into dust. The verdict was clear: guilty. Abigail Collins was sentenced to 3 years of probation, a conviction that would stay on her record. In the following civil trial, she was ordered to pay $85,000 in damages for property restoration. The moment the amount was announced, Abigail collapsed onto the courtroom floor. That judgment marked the tolling bell for the collapse of her life. Her husband, Ethan, immediately filed for divorce and won full custody of their children, citing her criminal conduct. With no ability to pay, bankruptcy became Abigail's only option. Her life truly began again from zero. As for my parents, who had stubbornly defended her, they soon found themselves ostracized as the criminal's parents, losing every shred of social trust they had once built. I received all these reports quietly, without emotion. Then I deleted every one of their contacts from my phone. There was no longer any space in my life for them. 1 year later, my Lake Arrowhead estate was finally reborn after 9 months of reconstruction. More beautiful, more refined than ever before. The structure had been rebuilt from the frame up, creating a spacious, open design with large windows that invited in the light from the lake, reflecting a different view every day. The gaudy gold wallpaper and the garish pink walls were gone, erased completely, as if they had never existed. A few days ago, I heard a rumor from a relative. Abigail is now living in the dimly lit basement of our parents' house, working 3 part-time jobs, including a night shift at a fast food restaurant, to pay off the $85,000 restitution. She is now experiencing, in full, the weight of everything she has lost. As for me, I sit quietly on the terrace of my reborn home, gazing out at the lake. My sanctuary will never again be violated by anyone.